So yeah, we're live. Thank you so much for all being here and those that are watching, welcome. And this is our first, so to say, panel of our Global Day of Action, International Children's Global Day of Action. And this is all about the future of education. We've got an amazing panel that is here and that is together. We are a little off time here, but nonetheless, let's make this amazing and let's talk about the future of education. Now, the COVID-19, the virus, it really changed how we think about education, because online education and homeschooling and schooling on Zoom, all of that was, well, a weird thing or something that not all people preferred. And now we sort of have to live with it and we have to deal with it. So now our perspective on education is changing. And I see a lot of people, especially around me, that are thinking about education in a rather different way. And that COVID, I think, really provided us with the perspective. So here we have Kyle Wagner, Peter Hoestrasser, Nyla Malou, and Tom Markham here with us to discuss the future of education. I'd like, one by one, to please introduce yourself briefly so all of us can initially know who you are. Let's start with the youngest in the house, Nyla Malou. Hello, Nyla. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you for having me. So I'm Nyla. I'm a 15-year-old. Most of my work has been within the environmental sector. So I'm working on building transparent and flexible solar cells in a lab and doing a little bit of research into trying to create a better algae-based bioplastic. And then I'm also working on a sequel to my novel that was released a few months ago, as well as putting together a children's book series on emerging technologies like artificial intelligence, blockchain, nanotech, things like that. So yeah, that's a little bit about me, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, and I met with this amazing lady and I fell in love because she was talking about amazing physics and bio stuff. That's what I understood from when we met. Kyle Wagner, please go ahead with your brief introduction.
Okay, that's a very hard introduction to follow. Nyla, you're 15, and I think you've done more than I've done. I won't reveal my age, but it's older than you are. So I'm Kyle. I am over here in Hong Kong, primarily really helping schools, I think, really make the transition. We've been talking about this for quite a long time in terms of the innovations that are necessary in education. I think Nyla and Rahid are living proof of what happens when you empower kids to, take control of their own learning. I primarily work around the field of project-based learning. Got my start in High Tech High in San Diego, which probably a lot of people have heard of. And it's led me now internationally to work with schools on all different parts of the globe, and really helping teachers make the transition to really student-centered learning, and primarily doing that through project-based experiences. I'm sure Nyla will have 3 or 4 books by the time she's my age, but I have one, and that is Power of Simple, and it's really offering some common sense types of strategies to make those transitions and shifts. So that's me.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being here. It's such an honor to have you on. Sir Tom Markham, please, your brief introduction. So happy to have you here.
You're on mute, Tom.
Thank you, Raheen. It's great to be here. I'm Tom Markham. I'm sitting here in California this morning. I have been actually working on the future of education for 30 years, and I'm glad to say I think it might actually be here. That's probably why we're having conversations like this, and I'm anxious to get into what that means and what that conversation looks like. My journey has been from classroom teacher, to founder of an organization called PBL Global. In that capacity, actually, Kyle and I have worked together. We work in the same field. I'm also a psychologist, so I'm interested in social emotional strengths and the personal qualities that are explored as people go forward in education, which actually I think are going to be far more important than the actual curriculum we deliver. It's going to be the ability of people to manage themselves through what I see as somewhat of a chaotic future. And I have a book that is not that well known, but is actually my best book, I think. It's called Redefining Smart. And that's really about how we awaken ourselves to become different kind of learners in this world. So I'm very happy to be here and happy to join. So thank you, Rahim.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. It's an amazing sort of interaction that we had. And it's so nice to have it again with you, discussing the entire group. Now, Peter Hoestrasser, so nice. It's so nice to have you here. It's so amazing. Please introduce yourself.
Sure. Thank you so much. My name is Peter Hoestrasser. I've been in education for 20 years as a secondary educator. I'm a two-time entrepreneur, one big failure learning moment. And then right now, I co-founded Hall Pass Education, which is a think tank around education with two of my co-founders, Dr. Peter James and Audrey Boyle. I also am the host of Disrupt Education, a podcast that's been going on for about 4 or 5 years now. Raheen, you're on there. And I look forward to having a few of the other panelists on there as well. I teach business education in a system here in Chicago. I love playing around in the system, getting your hands dirty, changing things up, and just like Kyle, Tom, and Nyla, all the project-based learning, empowering students is what we're playing around with. I have the opportunity to have a stage of students in front of me to listen to learn from, and to build with curriculum. So as a business educator, I have those opportunities. So it's great to be here and share some of the experiences that I've had.
Amazing. So nice to have you on. And I think, yes, this panel, some of the people in the panel would be amazing guests on Disrupt Education. It was an amazing podcast with you. And now comes to, never the least, Heidi Little Newhouse, who, by the way, is organizing this Global Diff Action with me. So she's sort of like my partner in peace, not crime, but yeah. Go ahead with a brief introduction.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, so that's great to hear. And I appreciate everything that I'm hearing from everybody right now. I'm one of those who started with what we now call social emotional learning in '93. And so I was always the odd duck. I was the woman who came in to teach people how to love themselves. I was the woman who came in to teach people how to work together in the classroom and to unite. You know, now we have a title. So I went ahead and created the Center for Advancement in Social Emotional Learning. And so we are actively flowing out 8 modules on embodiment practices, tools, and techniques to help people connect with their hearts and to understand how to work in relation to self, family, community, and the world. So it's International Children's Month, which is June. It's our 9th year. It's a 365-day-a-year free thematic activity platform for the world to partake in. It's common source, public domain. People can go ahead and do whatever they wish with it. And we welcome people's love, care, and respect for all the children on earth, which is our mission. Right, Raheen? Yay. And so Raheen's fantastic. And I hope she'll tell everybody also about what she's doing right now, because it's really cool. And then I look forward to exploring with everybody, how do we build a world that works for all? Because I'm refreshed to be with you. We're here. This is it. It's happening. It's amazing. Raheen?
Yeah. Thank you so much. And well, yeah, I'm just going to tell like a little bit of myself. So my name is Raheen. I am 13 years old. I'm a stand-up comedian, a writer, an entrepreneur, a volunteer teacher, an interviewer, a theater actress, and now I also work on child rights and peace. So that is what I do, and I want to empower everybody around me, regardless of their race, their religion, their caste, or their creed. And I mean, I see all of you guys here, and you guys just introduce yourself, and it's just like, you know, I know amazing you guys are, and it's just like a refreshment of that. And all of you guys have been working in education or in Laila Umulu. I mean, I feel like how she's been educated and how she utilized that into the real world is the real thing, to utilize what you've learned into actual practical things and into your passion and feel your passion that way. What do you guys think is the future of education? Nail Mulu. The future of classrooms, so sorry.
Yeah. So big question to unpack, but I honestly think, and I think Peter touched on it a little bit, is just like project-based learning. That's what I envision for the future of education. Because right now, if we look at tests, it's like a bunch of people are cramming the night before, just memorizing information. They regurgitate it on the test the next day, and then like 1 week later, they forget everything. And that's not really effective. It's not effective for their learning, and maybe they get like a good grade on that, but is that really worth something like 5 years down the line? And so I think instead, like the school systems are going to look different without tests. Personally, I think that they're really like tests are not the most effective way of testing your learning. Instead, I think if you're actually building projects, that is just a much better way to approach learning. So for example, if you do a biology unit with ecosystems, instead of having a test on that, maybe it's more open-ended of a project that is actually there to optimize your learning. So for example, maybe you're really into ducks and you do something with the ecosystem of ducks, you present your research, and then instead of there just being one right answer, it's more open-ended. And that's how it is in the real world. There's not just going to be an answer handed to you. You have to be able to have the ability to figure it out. And it's not one size fits all, which is how a lot of the time school is just one size fits all. But if instead you approach it with projects, then I think that changes altogether. So projects is the key to education.
Amazing. Yeah, I feel that too. And so now Malu thinks and envisions as PBL as the future of our classroom. Kyle Wagner, what do you think is the future of the classroom?
Ditto. No, I'll elaborate a little bit on what Nyla said. First of all, I think that's spot on. I actually like the question more of the future of learning, and rather than the future of education, because I think a lot of times we envision education as being, kids sitting in a classroom, and sometimes we envision that as being a very innovative classroom. But I think we've seen, with students being able to learn virtually in hybrid modes, there's a lot more learning that's just happening in a school. And I just got exposed to Montessori, so I'll take a little bit of a turn away from project-based learning, even though that's my MO. I got exposed to Montessori classroom these past 2 years, and watching the way in which the students pretty much guided and directed their own learning. They decided which projects, which extensions, which activities that they were going to further. I watched students building, urban gardens. I watched them taking care of the classroom routines. I watched older peers teaching younger peers, and this was all self-initiated by the students themselves. And the teacher goes through a very extensive training of 2 to 3 years just to be able to step back and take that facilitator role. So I really kind of see the future of learning as being very self-directed, self-initiated. I think you, Raheen and Nyla, are perfect examples of what happens when students take initiative for their learning. I mean, you've got your podcast. Nyla has started a lab, and she probably knows more about blockchain than I do. And I think the future of learning is really self-directed, and to empower students to be self-directed, Nyla's right on that you need a lot of projects and self-directed experiences to guide students. Then you could slowly pull the leash away and let them pretty much direct their own learning, and teachers will really become facilitators of those learning experiences rather than the dictators of curriculum or content.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're really getting me, because that was what my next question was about. I'm going to come onto that after we have all the thoughts on the future of the classroom. So, Tom Markham, what do you think is the future of the classroom?
If you ask me what I think the future of the classroom is, I don't think it has a future. The classroom is going somewhere else. So that's not really the issue. The classroom is going to look totally different in 25 years. It's not going to look like a place with 4 walls where you sequester young people for 6 hours a day. That isn't going to happen. I'd also say that if we were just dealing with you, Raheen, and Nyla as the folks to be educated, we wouldn't actually need a future of education. You guys are doing just fine. But the trouble is we have 1.8 billion young people between the ages of 12 and 24 on the planet. So one aspect I would say, we need a system of learning that actually allows for a lot more of people like the two of you. And somehow we're not doing that. We're missing human potential. We're just not striking the right chord with young people. So one future is to unfold young people and talents. Second thing I would say is that if the future was going to be somewhat tranquil, then I would say, yes, we're just looking at more project-based learning. Some people call me the father of project-based learning. I'm like Kyle, it's my MO for sure. That's sort of how I've made my living and done my thing for over 30 years. But I actually sort of agree with Kyle that we're going towards some other version of project-based learning. I actually call it a project mindset, because I am interested in moving the focus from teacher-directed projects to young people taking charge of their learning, as Kyle just described so well. So we're actually going to, I think, incorporate some of this Montessori and many other things into project-based learning as we go forward. And the third thing I say is that the future isn't going to be tranquil. So somehow what we have to do is move the focus from quadratic equations and the water cycle to sustainable development goals and meaningful community involvement and engaging in the issues of the day, because the issues of the day, if we don't turn those 1.8 billion young people loose on those issues of the day, we're not going to be able to handle them. We need that talent pool to really help us solve these issues. And obviously the two of you are contributing to that, but there's a whole lot of your peers out there who are not having that opportunity. So one part of the future is, how do we do that? Those are my thoughts.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, yes, that is, you are the PBL guru, as I would like to say that. So yeah. And what about you, Peter Hoestrasser? What do you think is the future of our classroom, if there is any future?
Yeah,
now
I mean,
I'm rethinking my questions.
Yeah, I'm going to jump into Kyle's answer. Ditto. I think that a lot of what has been said here, put together, is the idea of the classroom or lack thereof. This will not be an easy transition, like Tom's saying. I think this year is going to be very, especially in the States and worldwide, we're taking a look at people who want to move and change this thing, because we know the inequities, we know of all the things that are troubling, to where we are not allowing students to be like you two young people here, and doing amazing things. In a lot of my podcasts, a lot of things I hear is community and learning happening together. I think there was a power structure of, especially here in the States, of education created by people who look like me. And I held the knowledge as an educator, and this might be going into roles a little bit as educators, but now the knowledge is out there. Teachers I don't like the term teacher anymore. I think it's completely outdated. I think that we are coaches, we are mentors, we are people here to help you be what you want to be, guide you, give you advice, connect you with people, connect you with your community, listen, understand, and learn, and be a teammate in this. So in that sense, the roles are completely changing, or will be changed. Because I have students sitting in my class, they know exactly what I'm going to talk about if I was to spill them curriculum. So we have different kinds of discussions. And the environments, like Tom said, this is not going to be a place where we just house people in a room or in a building. We need to have people interacting with their communities, their local communities. That's the only way you make local communities better is, I can't go into a community and say, this is what you need. I'm the teacher. I need to listen. I need to work and expose all different kinds of things that I understand, and then also learn with students, young people, because that's how you better communities. And I think, like, it's not education, it's learning, it's growing, it's becoming a better place overall. And then the final thing I think in the pandemic that I see is, this is not, everybody's looking at, in the States here at least, and this might be naive of me because we learned so much about the world through this last year, is we're not always just looking at Finland. Okay. It's not just Finland. It's all across the world. And there's some amazing things going on. And I think we've all exposed those things here, and are exposing those things. And that is something that the learning environment is now not, it doesn't have to just be your local community, which it can be, if the students choose that, but it can be worldwide as well to make and learn from each other. It's becoming a smaller place.
Yeah, that's true. I appreciate your answer. And what about you, Heidi? What do you think is the future of the classroom?
Well, I made a global classroom 9 years ago. That was a platform for people to use their voices and empowerment. The whole purpose was we had like peace contests and art contests for kids, and that was it, right? And I was like, well, I know they have a lot more to offer and a lot more to say. So that's why we built International Children's Month, so they would have a place to speak from and say from. So, you know, Jamie Margolin from This Is Zero Hour has gone from being a 12-year-old working with Chutesca Martinez with the Earth Guardians to running a huge major environmental organization. Chutesca Martinez went from very humble beginnings to running Earth Guardians chapters all over the world. You know, it's being done. And then of course my whole bag is self-love. If we love ourselves and we actually give people room to cultivate their inner guidance system and who they are as people, and give them space, safe and brave space to do that, which is my whole role now after we got the children all like empowered and out in the world. And I'm not saying I'm the only one who did that. It took all of us, all the good parents, all the great relatives, everybody involved. Now I want to empower the educators to love themselves so they can be the embodiment of that. And then when they're out there modeling in the public systems, they can model what it looks like to love, care, and respect yourself and each other. So, and project-based learning, absolutely. I've got a play called One Love Rising that's all social emotional learning, breaking the fourth wall, where everybody breathes together and imagines together and, you know, like, let's build something. And it's just a skeletal structure so that everyone can decide who the characters are and what the positions are and how it all works together. So I think giving a bit of a baseline is important because people are confused and they're not sure exactly what to do right now. So if we give some kind of baseline, like just like a loose framework or, you know, something, and then people can decide if they're into that. And then, you know, like the project, right? Like, oh, well, how about we just cultivate, you know, love in action? What is that? What does it look like? What does it sound like? What does it do? Then it gives people a framework so that they know what they're working within. Because if there's no framework at all, it can be scary and hard. You know, and it's already scary and hard for a lot of people. So I think as educators, agree with all of you and everything you said. Every single one of you. Brilliant. I'm honored to be here. So thanks. Thanks for asking, Raheen.
Yeah, it's so nice to have you on. I loved your answer. Now, what I personally think is definitely micro schools and then also personalized education. Now, I got a scholarship for the School of Humanities summer school program, and it's amazing. You know, there's learning paths, and then there's so many different things that you can pick up, and then there's personalized that experience of education according to your needs and what you want to learn and your interests and the basic things. I think it is a whole blend of all. So personalized education as well as micro schools, what I think is the future of the classroom, though I am seriously rethinking my question of putting the classroom there. But nonetheless.
Well, Raheen, the classroom could be the forest. It could be the kitchen table. It can be, you know, your car. It can be the movie theater. I mean, I see everything as a classroom, right? Like every single play, we're all learning and growing here. I use every moment I possibly can to educate my children who are around me in every way about everything. Like, isn't like the whole world is a stage? Okay, the whole world is a classroom too, right? Like, let's get real here. We're all learning every single second of the day, right? So it's like, I think the classroom is everything, all it is. Let's grow for it.
Yeah, that is true. Now, one thing else that I truly feel is now at this point in time, you know, first before this time, it was that, oh my God, so you would first go to school and so a few years ago, first you'd go to school and then you'd revise and you'd study more at home. But now it is, you watch the video first, then your teacher is just a facilitator. At this point in time, the tables have really turned. I mean, my math teacher, he would recommend us YouTube channels and would be like, okay, I'm there in the class. You guys watch the video and we're good to go for the day. Oh. So see this how the tables have turned? It's just, you know, how it is, how fast we are evolving with how teachers are becoming facilitators. And that's what Kyle was sort of pointing at when it was our last question. So what do you think is the future of teaching, coaching, mentoring, facilitating, whatever word you prefer, term, and what do you think would be the perfect, or how would be the perfect teacher, mentor, coach of the future? So first, let's go with Naila Malou, and then we could sort of rotate with how we already are.
Yeah, cool. So again, I think it's less like teachers and more like mentors. I think somebody said this, but less like micromanaging and more just trying to get them to develop their own passions. And so putting a lot more emphasis on real world skills, for example, projects are one of those, like learning how to actually do critical thinking, but there's also learning about finances, you know, paying your bills, paying taxes, public speaking, you know, giving those opportunities to your students and putting them, this may sound bad, but like putting them in more positions to fail because, you know, you need to learn how to fail and get up from that, because failure is a really big part of life. And it's something that's looked down upon within school systems. And yet failure is also really key to success. So for example, if you want to address one of the world's biggest problems, if you want to play a role in ending world hunger, and you're trying to create a product, there's going to be failure in that. It's not going to be, you know, you come up with something, it solves world hunger in 1 hour, there you go. There's like this need for instant gratification within students because they think failure is bad and they want, you know, success right away, but that's not how it's going to be. And so I think just changing the entire narrative around failure is going to do wonders for students, and just changing the mindset altogether.
Yeah, I'm really loving it because I recall a lot of stories when some of my friends or I got, you know, I didn't fail, but then it's like very low marks. And there's always a look on their face that kills you inside. Trust me, it does. This is that stern look. But, you know, I feel like that is true, putting them in such positions that they can learn to get themselves up and prepare them for failure in life, because that's going to happen at some point. And the later it does, the more, you know, you don't know about it or you have an experience about it, the more you dread it, or either the more you think your life is over. So yeah, that is very nice. What about you, Kyle?
All right. Yeah. Thanks for that input, Naila. I think failure is quite important. I would push back also by just asking us to all consider too how we're evaluated as teachers and how we're evaluated as students. We're evaluated as students generally through standardized tests. We're judged by our GPAs. And so it is, on one hand, we're saying fail fast, fail forward, yet our evaluation system doesn't value failure. So I think one of the things we have to first change is how we're evaluating students and how we're evaluating teachers. So teachers, you know, can't be punitively evaluated by how well their kids do on a standardized test, how much of their curriculum that they cover, and what page are on in the textbook. You know, that needs to change. Students can't be evaluated by their standardized test scores or by their GPAs. So I think a more holistic evaluation system, so that students are developing a lot of these skills and they're able to showcase, yes, I've had this failure, but it's also led me to this growth and this success. So as you mentioned, world hunger, right? So what was the very first action that was taken towards world hunger? Was it looking just within your own community and looking at, you know, a food bank and trying to, you know, feed more people within your own community and doing that more sustainably? And if you have that long-term ability as a student to be able to develop that project and you have a portfolio that is demonstrating your growth through that, and your evaluation system is more about your perseverance, your resilience, your innovation, your creativity, then therefore that benchmark is going to be a lot better to demonstrate really what you're capable of as a student. So I think we need to change evaluation systems. I see the future as changing those first, then equipping teachers with the skills to make that shift from the sage on the stage to really the guide on the side and being a mentor. And then I think the mindsets will start being built into students, that the people who are held up on this pedestal are not the ones who got the A the quickest, but really who persevered through a problem and a project and solving that.
Amazing. That was really like right on. And what about you, Sir Thom?
I'll touch on a couple of things here. I really like what Peter, you said about mentors. There's nothing wrong with the term mentor, facilitator, coach. That's clearly the direction we're going. But I also think there's something out there that we haven't yet quite touched upon enough. And that is, and this is bad news for Raheen and Naila, but we don't know what we're doing as adults. We don't know what the future holds. And it's very difficult to actually become a coach and mentor if you don't know what the future holds yourself. So I actually moving more towards the term or the vision of teacher as co-learner. In other words, we're sort of all entering this process together. Peter sort of referred to that, a process of creating a future together with a lot of unknowns in front of us. Now, that doesn't mean you can't, as a teacher, be a mentor or an expert even. You have life experience to share, hopefully, as an adult with a younger person. So it doesn't negate that entirely. It just says, I don't know exactly what we're doing. And we're moving through this very new future together. We have dropped off a cliff, essentially. And as we drop off this cliff, we're in free fall to some extent. And we're all trying to figure out how we're going to fly. And as the old saying goes, we are building the plane in the middle of the air. And so we're doing that together. So the co-learner is very important. I'd just like to say one other thing that sort of also, Peter, you touched upon. We still have a very westernized view of learning. I mean, in Peter's terms, it's what the University of Chicago thought we should all know. and really, I want to know what the world is thinking, because we have a whole lot of indigenous knowledge out there that we have not even begun to talk about, who don't care about standardized tests and don't measure their learning through that methodology. So, Raheen, to kind of go home with you, you've had a very westernized form of learning, and even though I don't know whether in Islamabad or Lahore or wherever your hometown is, but I want to know about how about your countrymen up in the North Mountains. I want to know what all of them are thinking and how do we bring them into a world vision of learning, because right now we're still operating from that Western perspective. And I think we're trying to let go of that. We see this in the news. We're trying to disassemble of that, but I think we're more conscious we can that we're trying to be really inclusive. And by inclusive, to me, there's no use of trying to invite everybody into the existing classroom for what? We need a new kind of classroom. So anyway, that's some thoughts about that. And as far as the virtual and the project-based learning, I think all that is just going to happen. We could have a conversation about how virtual learning works or doesn't work, because we have learned a tremendous amount in the last 15 months about actually what engages young people in a virtual environment, or at the same time causes them to disappear for 6 months and never showing up on the Zoom room for the teacher. And there's some really issues around that. We learned a lot about what it means to engage and how to do that. And that is really a project-based world. So those are some of my thoughts, Raheen.
Yeah, I mean, you're very right. And it is very scary to know, oh my God. So first we're told grown-ups know everything, and now we're like, they don't know anything. So it is scary, but I mean, it is true. The free fall thing you said is correct. It is a bit scary, but it is. So we figure out everything together, which is interesting. And that's what makes life interesting. Just that mystery and that curiosity and that scary things. So what about you, Peter? Very excited to just see what you have your mind on and your thoughts on this.
Yeah, there's so much that was covered and before that. It's amazing. Kyle, I'm going to go with, talking about how teachers are evaluated. Again, we are looking at, like you're saying, Tom, the Western look and the 5 E's and everything that University of Chicago wants everybody to do, which is hilarious if you're not familiar. But there's a book that's written by Craig Randall. I'm going to give him a shout out. It's called Trust-Based Observations. And it's a great book. And I've talked to Craig, and he's worldwide as well, kind of like you, Kyle, going across the world and learning. And it's so basic. It's almost like, why not? Why are we not doing this? So it's just a couple of questions. I'll let you all look into that. But I think you're right. When us as educators are looking at different models, the Danielson model, and everything is just like, we have to do this and you have to do that, and there's 45,000 check marks, you really don't have time to be a human. And that kind of goes along with what Heidi, you're talking about with the social emotional, learning, which is now becoming, and finally, I'm guessing you're seeing it now, the years that you've worked on it. It is very important. We have to understand students as humans. We have to teach the student first, not the subject, or learn with the student. So, and I think, Kyle, you mentioned it as well, as a little bit of portfolio. I think credentials are okay. I think it's an outdated system. I think, okay, you can get the check mark or the certificate, but I know a lot of people with check marks and certificate that I wouldn't trust with any of my money in a business or job or changing the world. So I am a huge advocate of value-based portfolios. What is your value? What do you do well, right? Whether you're in the mountains of Pakistan or whether you're in Hong Kong, or what do you do well? And let's grow that, right? Let's go. Because now you can become a part of a powerful team of people in whatever capacity that you want, using your interests, using your skill sets. I think in education, especially in the Western model, what we do is we look at what you're bad at, and then we shove about 3 or 4 more classes down your throat to try to fix it. And that obviously does not work. It creates all kinds of problems, physical, mental, a lot of damaging things that are happening here. So I really like building portfolios. When I was an administrator in the Western burbs here before I just went back into teaching, into the having fun in the classroom. But there were 6 things that they were looking at, the district was looking at. They didn't know how to do it. To your point, Tom, we don't know what we're doing, but we're failing in front of people. But they came up with 6 pretty cool things. It was being self-empowered, being a communicator, somebody who thinks critically, which is obviously no one knows exactly what that means ever. Embracing diversity, being a creator and a collaborator. And okay, we'll start there, and then start with your skills and how do you as a person do that, rather than you get an A on a math test or whatever. So that's kind of the way I see it as well. And Don, thank you so much, because I love teaching in a place where there are 4 generations of people. And you're right, I have certain experiences, but it's not going to look like the experience. I mean, if you can imagine what my grandparents went through, is not even close to what I went through. So how do we know what's happening next with the youth? So I like the co-learning piece as well.
Yeah, that is true, because at this point in time, I feel like a lot of people that I interview and a lot of people that I talk to, they're always like, if they're educators, now it's like we learn from them as well. And a lot of times more from them, because I saw my teachers in Zoom and they're like, wait, so how do I do that? How do I do that? It's that one thing that we know, that social media, different things, especially technology, one thing that we do know, that is that. So yes, it is. If it is a co-learning environment, it is a rather healthy one, so that there is not that, oh my God, I'm the teacher, I'm in control, and I'll do anything I want. So yeah, I'll come more onto what I have to say about it. But first, let's go with Heidi. Heidi, what do you have to think about it?
Well, I feel like I'm in triage. I feel like I have one hand on the heart, one hand on the vein. People are ripped to pieces, and I'm going, okay, wait. How do we stop the bleed? Let's not bleed out here, you know? So it's like, that's how I feel. And, and I know without any doubt that it all comes back to the heart and leading with the heart and getting people connected to themselves. And I guess I sound like a broken record because I have for 28, 9, 30 years now. Same thing, you know, it all comes back to the same thing. How do we find their most unique and beautiful gifts? Where are the new Teslas, the new Einsteins? Where are the new Gandhis? Who are these people we're surrounded with? And why do we think even for a second that we should have them sit someplace, shut up, be quiet, absolute compliance, complacency? You know, I mean, it's ludicrous to put anyone's child in a space where they don't get to be creative. We are creative beings. That is our job here. That's what we are created to do. Our cells are always dividing every multi-second, you know? So it's like Stanislavski said it best, and then I'll quote Gandhi and then I'll be done. But Stanislavski said that the root of prejudice is actually foisting our opinion on others when they're in the creative process. So if you think of that in relation to all of what we've done to other cultures and everything else, those people, they didn't love themselves in the first place, and that's why they hurt other people. So hello, let's get to the stem here of where the bleed is. And then from there, Gandhi said, we have spent decades and centuries educating the mind, decades and centuries training the body, and we have allowed the heart to atrophy. I call out to you as educators, as mentors, as guides, as parents, help with the heart. Lead them to their heart. And when I read that, that was it. My whole life was, oh yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing my master's work on, my dissertation. I fought to prove self-love in education with a board of people. You guys all know what it's like with your master's degrees. You have to fight to prove. And to prove that love is important, oh gosh, I wanted to tear my hair out. It was terrible. But, you know, we did it. I got it done. And then here it is. So now let's reach everybody. You know, let's reach everybody and get them connected to their heart. And then when they're connected to their heart, then they can do projects and they'll feel confident standing up and sharing themselves in front of people. And you know how many times I failed? Every single day, 25 times a day. Seriously. Like, to actually get anything relatively important done, you're going to get people who have no idea what you're talking about. You're going to get people who don't understand you. You're going to have to stand in that place where nobody really knows what you're talking about until they finally get an inkling, because they say the average person takes 7 to 14 times in marketing to actually hear or see something that has come across the table for them. It's 7 to 14 times. That's a lot of times to have to repeat yourself. So I'm used to feeling like a broken record at this point, but at least now the world is reflecting something back to me that makes sense, right? Like, let's care for things and take care of people. And there was always that, but it should be common, you know, like it should be common to love, care, and respect children and to take care of them. And we're going to go through a period here in the next year where it's pretty shameful with the residential schools. And I mean, want to give schools a bad name? Just take a look at what's happening right now with that. I mean, they were allowed to do whatever they wanted to those children. And, you know, it's like parental involvement, guardian involvement, getting the community and the families involved. And, you know, God bless me with this, but, you know, our infrastructure of public systems, it's time to flow and move with the times and what needs to happen, right, for people. You guys are giving me empowerment here because, you know, it's not easy knocking on district doors, you know, and saying, oh, hi, I'm here and we have self-love. Okay. Like, yeah, you should see the eyeballs that have rolled at me over the years, teaching people to connect to their hearts. But that's okay. We do it anyway, right? Because we know it's right. Right? We do the progressive education because we know it's right. And for people like Nayla, is that how you say your name? Is Nayla?
It's Nyla.
Nyla, it's beautiful. And I love you. Thank you for doing what you're doing in the world and for being empowered and standing in your truth. You know, that's what we want. We want people young people to stand in their truth and to have the confidence and know they're supported to do that. So many blessings.
Yes. So, I mean, what I have to say to this, and what you said, Heidi, really resonated. Like, yeah, thank God you have your silky, beautiful hair and you went through all of that. You did not rip them out. So, coming back.
You're awesome. She's like the ultimate connector, empowered lover. And it's because her dad is behind her totally 1,000%. And she works with grown-ups like us, adults like us, who are embracing our inner child and can extend, right, the empowerment to others. It's huge. Every one of you has done the work. Thank you.
Yeah. And today, me and Heidi have been friends for a year because last year, exactly today, I did a session with her. So that was the first time that we met. So congratulations to us. And now my question is, how do you think the curriculum is changing? It's probably changing. And what do you think is the future of the curriculum, keeping in mind of how do you think will technology be incorporated into the curriculum? Let's go with that. Let's go with Carl Wagner. What do you think?
I feel like it's unfair. You're always calling me first. I think we should give, you can call on me later.
Okay. Peter, what about you? You're always happy.
Yeah, the curriculum, I think, is an interesting thing. I think Tom mentioned it before. We have this curriculum that is the core four or the westernized. It's the same thing over and over and over and over again. And again, it's not human centric. It's just here it is, and we're going to grade you on that. I think it's a necessity that the curriculum becomes how to make the world a better place. I mean, and not necessarily the entire world, the immediate world of where people are. We always say you need to meet your students where they are. Well, the curriculum needs to be where the students are and what they're dealing with. I've worked in several different schools here in the States, and very different. I think, Heidi, you talked a little bit about how, districts are very different. There is a lot of different socioeconomics, a lot of racial, a lot of isms across the board. And for me to come into a district and be a person who is the minority in that district, and then you learn that those core four are applicable, but not even close the way that we're teaching them, or the system in the westernized world is teaching them. So, again, like as a business educator, I have that opportunity to figure out, okay, most students they did want financial literacy. They did want to understand how can I make ends meet for my family? Where do I go to get a loan? I mean, how can I afford whatever they need to afford, and the basics and different things like that. And then that needs to become the curriculum, in my opinion. We need to raise people up into where they are. But in order to do that, like Heidi said, we need to understand who they are. So the curriculum really is humanistic first, teaching those students. So that's the way I see it. It's out of necessity. It is out of interest and how people see the world. Because you all have amazing opportunities to bring and ideas. We're doing this right here, and Raheen, you help put this together. I mean, this is an example of a necessity. Let's start talking about this, and you've created this, and that's how we're using technology, and using technology as a positive. I think as what we're doing there's a lot to learn, and we can't be afraid of it. I think we need to embrace it and fail with it, but then have the support underneath it as well.
Yeah, you're totally right. Sorry, there's somebody at the door going crazy. And I mean, I totally think about the Western perspective, which I forgot to speak about. But it is true. And at this point in time, at least in Pakistan or the school that I was going to, when it is something from the West, it's just cool. That's that's what parents are paying for the Western perspective, or for the Western studies, or for the Western things to be taught. And for the Pakistani things, it's in government schools, it's in public schools. Every private school, they're always about, oh, so you're going to teach my child English, or you're going to speak in English, or you're going to, do everything right up to the university level. We go to, so there's going to be Western case studies, and there's going to be Western this. Everybody is just stoked about the fact that it is from there. And we really, at times, lose the fact that we need to appreciate what we have and the ancestral knowledge that we have, and that we can utilize our people and people's knowledge to know more and to create a world that works for all. See how I did that? But please, let's come on to Kyle Wagner. Are you ready, or should I go on to somebody else?
I'm ready. Well, Kyle's probably ready too. Go ahead, Kyle.
You go. I want to be later on, because I thought there time.
He wants to. Yeah, Kyle likes to follow up and end everything, so that's fine. So, all right. Listen, I'm gonna tie a few things together here. I just sent Heidi and I are having a small side chat on the heart, which I totally agree on. But I have permission from you, Raheen. This is the future of learning, so we can go deep here. I think partly this future of learning includes figuring out the science of the whole child. Right now, we like to throw around the whole child, but we are very, very far from that, because we are embedded in this cognitive model from the 1960s that says nothing really happens from the neck down that's important. And this has to change if we want to carry out this vision, because if you asked about what curriculum is now the person. Knowledge is on YouTube. So the curriculum becomes how you develop young people. Now, that's a simplification, and someone like Nyla, who's obviously got a lot of technical information that you've had available to you, I don't mean to say that technical information isn't available or shouldn't be available in a curriculum. I'm just saying, in the simplest terms, it's people who are at the forefront now, and knowledge is secondary. I mean, 80% of young people go to YouTube to find out the answer to a question. So if we're going to really make that a reality, then we've got to examine this whole sort of physiological model we have, if you will, because the heart and brain work together. It's like Heidi said, and the heart is not just some sort of mythical thing where it's not a Hallmark card. It's actually a science that helps us learn and connects us to the brain. 80% of their nervous impulses between heart and brain go from heart to brain, not the reverse. That should tell us right there that we need a whole person version of physiology to back up the whole child. I heard Peter reference the whole child earlier in the broadcast. So I think we're all on kind of the same page here. What does it mean to have a whole child? And really don't have a science that backs us up right now. I have a lot of complaints about neuroscience, and a lot of assumptions are made by today's neuroscientists and cognitive scientists who then drive our curriculum, which I think are incorrect. And I'll just throw out something. If we're going to figure out the future of learning, we better have a little better insight into what actually the mind is, which is a term we use 20,000 times a day in education and have absolutely no idea what we're talking about. Oh, we're going to improve the minds. Well, what are we doing? Well, we don't know. So I'm just saying, maybe the future of learning might start with some honesty on the part of the establishment that we're a bit at sea here. That's my thought. So I'll turn that over to Kyle, and he can do something with that.
All right. Is it my turn, Raheen, to do something like that, or do you want to? You go next.
Go ahead, Kyle. I'll go next.
Okay. Yeah, Tom, you pretty much covered everything I wanted to mention. I think, though, you gave a better tweet. I wrote it down. Learning from the heart is not a Hallmark card. It's a scientific process. I'm definitely going to be tweeting that out later. But yeah, really the merging, I think the curriculum is a merging of the three essential components of learning. It's hands-on, it's hearts-on, right? And it's head-on. So I think Tom is correct. I think Peter's mentioned that as well when he talked about whole child and learning out of necessity. And it's more than just really the mind and just activating brains, and all day, spent just trying to activate people's brains and knowledge, and then going into the world and not having any skills to be able to integrate. Because here's another cliche, right? The jobs of the future, right? You're gonna hate I would say this, but it's true, right? Half the jobs of the future aren't jobs of today. It's probably going to be higher than that. So you're either going to have AI that's going to do it for you, or it's not going to be a job that exists anymore because it's become obsolete and there's a better process for it. So really the curriculum is not just a set of knowledge. I think really the curriculum is empowering young people with skills. I have put forth a proposition for what the future of curriculum could be. And I said it a few weeks back on LinkedIn, and I would love for someone to take me up on it. But I think it's centered around what was mentioned earlier about making the world a better place. But I think the curriculum has been laid out through the SDG goals, the Sustainable Development Goals that have been laid out that say exactly 17 different goals that touch on every single, issue that we're going to be facing as humans. From a scientific standpoint, from a humanities standpoint, it's transdisciplinary. It's making the world a better place. There's room for heart, head, and hand in it. There's room for learner and student agency. And you're not just working for yourself to discover your passions or interests. You're working to discover your passions and interests so that you literally can make the world a better place and reach the goals for humankind together collectively. And it's not just students working on it. It's teachers working right alongside students, facilitators rather. It's the community. It's embracing indigenous culture as well as the Western culture. And there it is. It's been laid out. Let's make that the curriculum.
Yeah, definitely. So nice that you put that. And what I have to say is, curriculum here, the sort of things that are like, even the books, my dad studied with are still the same. I study from them. It is very weird because things have been happening since, he's a 42-year-old man and I am 13 years old. Do the math yourself. There is some difference, of age. So coming back to what I was saying is that when it's just the same and you're not updating and going with the time, then also with the perspective of how a child, not how a child works, but how a child is, how they would perceive or receive this knowledge that you're giving them. And then also very much on how so the teacher teaches it, or the teacher conveys the message from the whole education power to the child really does matter and really impacts. Sometimes I've seen that the curriculum is also amazing. I see a lot of good things, and then it's like, but how was I taught? Was it amazing? Well, let's just not say it was great. So that are my thoughts, because I asked this question because I want to learn more about how it's changing, how it's going to be. That's why my answer is not the most, I'm not qualified for curriculum and stuff. What about you, Heidi?
I'm just sitting here in the background as the cheerleader to everything that I'm hearing, going, yes, 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 yes. And, I spent the last 5 years creating 8 modules. They're guides to help people embody tools and techniques to connect to their heart, to their inner guidance system, to their cultivating their dreams. What are their goals? It incorporates indigenous knowledge through the medicine wheel work and mind mapping. We've hit on every single point. Now, great. I am seeing 100,000% love and happiness from the adults and grown-ups, the educators, that are experiencing it, going through the training and all that stuff. Man, now it'll be also very curious to see what the youth think, because Dr. Emoto gave me a teaching back in the day before he transcended that connects to the heart, and then we share love with the water and receive energy back from the water. And the children really like that. It's a very beautiful thing to feel your energy as you cultivate the joy. And that's what we're going to do at 111 today. So you literally put your hands to your heart, because we draw attention to the places we touch, right? So you literally put your hands to your heart, and then you imagine all of the beautiful things in your life, like the most beautiful things ever. The joy, the birthday parties, the grandmas, the anything. And you fill yourself all up with love, and then you send it out to the next time zone. And with Dr. Emoto, you send it to the water. You said, water, I love you, I thank you, I respect you. And then the water, you wait, and the water will literally give you energy back into your hands, and you can bring it to your heart. And it teaches and shares and shows, and you work with the activity of actually giving and receiving with the water. Try it in your bathtub, with a bowl of water, at a lake, a river, an ocean. It works. It's amazing, and it's always different. So, let's see. Because Raheen, you might shock me. You're going to take the module certifications. You might hate it as a youth. I have no idea what you're going to think, because I know you guys come in all turned on, tapped into, and then like, how much abuse does the person suffer, right? To make them feel like different inside of themselves. How much do they pick up in their environment that affects them in some way? So this is what we're dealing with. And like, we have like societal things going on right now, right? And they're like big things. And there's a lot of weapons in Hollywood. There's a lot of weapons in video games. There's a lot of killing going on. There's a lot of, it's okay to go beat somebody up and take them out of their car on a video game. I saw it the other day. To me, it's atrocious. I'm like, why are you doing this? Why are you playing this game? It's just pretend. Yeah, okay, but you don't think it actually is doing anything in your life, like to you or to the people around you? How can it not, right? So it's like just being really conscious about how we're moving forward, I suppose. And everybody in this room is outstanding, and I want to work with all of you. So I'll be in touch after our panel. It's like, you're all great. Yay.
Yeah. I mean, with the video game thing you said, so my brother, he's a fan of so many games. And I was like, oh my God, I work on PC and this is what you're doing? Wow. So ironic. And then I delete it every night, and then he installs them again. So there's a whole cycle that's been going on. Mm-hmm. But, I'm sure that it does make an effect, and this is the best that I can do. And what about you, Nyla? It's been so long since we heard Nyla, so give it up for her. And what do you think? How can, or the certain aspect of the question that I'd like for you to answer is definitely, how do you think technology could be incorporated into what we're learning and the curriculum?
Oh, technology.
Yeah, I think really everything is being like shifted to technology already. So like in the past, like maybe COVID kind of accelerated that, but in the past, like, writing tests on papers, for example, now we're doing pretty much everything online. And there are like infinity amount of resources online. Like you can learn so much, but there's also a lot of toxic things online. So it's about like finding that balance and being able to actually educate yourself and get away from these distractions online. I agree in terms of like personalizing like people's education, but something else I would say, kind of putting a spin on your technology question, we actually need to put more emphasis on emerging technologies. That's not like on your computer, but things like artificial intelligence and blockchain and nanotechnology and fusion energy. A lot of people don't know about these things that are going to be so heavily impacting their lives. For example, artificial intelligence, someone mentioned it's going to be revolutionizing the future. It already is. It's going to be replacing jobs. People don't know about it. That's just an example of many different technologies. We need to be more educated on these fronts. Of course, we need to learn about like the basics, like sciences, maths, but we also need to know about these. And that's also going to be huge areas of work. So if you don't know about these emerging technologies, if you don't know how to code, these are skills that you want to have for the future. And it starts with exposure. And then from exposure comes building these projects, and building these projects are going to do they're going to help you have phenomenal impact and get those skills that are crucial to the future. And so putting emphasis on these technologies is going to be really integral.
Yeah, amazing, Nala. I totally feel you, though I will have to Google nanotech again, but I'm right there with you, sister. I remember the first time I talked to Niles, we went about fusion energy, and the whole time I'm thinking, what is it? I'm trying to Google it, and I still don't understand it. And then the first thing I asked her is, what is it? So, yeah, I'm more of like a basic physics level right now, but amazing, right with you, sister, and right with you, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Please, let's start with the closing remarks. Hear from you guys, and loved putting this together. It was fun with the emails and everything. But this, this is some, total conversation, like an open dialogue here. So let's start with Sam. Your closing remarks, please. What would you like to say?
So I'm going to end on a positive note here. I'm not a Pollyanna, but I am an optimist. And what I do think that on all these challenges, we're actually, as a globe, are making some amazingly fast progress. Just the past 24 months or 36 months, it's a small window of time, we have suddenly turned this conversation into a global conversation. That is a huge, huge advance in terms of trying to figure out where we're going educationally as a planet. So I think we ought to acknowledge the fact that we have made those connections. It's global. This conversation is evidence of that. There's plenty of other instances where we can see this kind of progress. Secondly, I think we're in general starting to talk about the right things. Inclusion, indigenous, broadening out knowledge, whole person, all these are becoming part of the conversation. So let's leave with a little pat on the back. We're doing okay, and probably are making more progress in the last 10 years than the world education has made in at least 200 years. So we're doing okay.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much for being here. It was so amazing to have you on. What about you, Kyle?
Yeah, I'll end on an optimistic note. I think we have made a lot of progress, which also starts with the P. And I think some memorable 3 Ps. You got passion. So as young people, as ourselves, I think once we find our passions, something that, just makes us get up in the morning, something we can't wait to do. Seems like Nyla has found hers with emerging technologies. So find that passion, connect it to a purpose. And I think where those 2 things intersect, there's a line right in the middle, and that's a project. So I think passion, purpose, find a project, meaningful projects to connect those 2 things. And once we've done that, I think all the other things will fall into place.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Kyle, for being here. And this was our first interaction. Just see how amazing it was. And what about you, Nyla?
Yeah, I would kind of leave on the note of just however many people are listening, like regardless of your age, just keep learning. There are so many resources available online. We're really lucky to even have technology in front of us. So just taking advantage of that, taking courses, watching videos, reading articles, there's so much to learn. And so, yes, just keep learning, keep educating yourself. Thank you for having me.
Amazing. So nice to have you on. Thank you so much for coming on. What about you, Peter?
So in 2017, I tweeted, and it's actually my posted tweet since we mentioned Twitter, outdated education standards will remain the same until somebody challenges them. And of course, almost to the day in 2021 or 2020, that happened. And I think as Kyle and Tom and Nyla are talking about, like, this is where we're going. And at the beginning of this pandemic, I knew that this next school year was going to be the one where I was going to learn the most. I didn't say I was going to control, teach, or anything. I was going to learn the most. And it started generating this conversation even more. And look what's come of it. We're going to fail forward. And this is a definite turning point. And I'm also an optimist, and that's why I'm always happy. But it is going to be a tough road, but it's worth the fight, and doing these things are very important. So thank you for having me, Rain.
Thank you so much for being here, Peter. You had an amazing perspective to share on all the questions, and so did all of you guys. What about you, Heidi?
Just sending lots of love to everybody and blessings for everyone finding their gifts and their calling here so they know what they're doing and purpose. And thank you for having me here with all of these wonderful people. I appreciate every one of you.
It's amazing having you on, and see what the power of technology is. Either I had to fly somewhere, either I had to fly him in, something like that needed to happen. And I believe that the future of education, seeing that there's so many things that are changing, and that we see that how the betterment in education is going to help us build a world that works for all. And these open dialogues, the more we discuss, the more that there's, you know, sort of disagreements on certain things as well. There's arguments, and then you start sort of building up on that, sort of understanding each other. That is how we build the work for all, and that is how peace is achieved. That is what I think. Thank you so much for all of you guys for being here, giving the time, though we were 15 minutes late, and for all of you guys for watching. And I will be connected, and we'll be coming back with this group, inshallah, soon as well. Thanks.